I'm freezing. It is like so cold. For some reason, it is massively cold up in here. But that's all right. What better way to start the day? Let's go.
Good morning and welcome to hashtag Rise and Grind. I am your host, Glenn Lundy. I am a husband to one, a father to seven, and the creator of what is going to be the #1 most watched morning show in the world. It is 5:30 a.m. and I hope that you are ready to rise and grind.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, my friend? How are you, my friend? I hope you are doing so incredibly well. Dude, today is October 1st, Tuesday. That's right. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. And what's crazy is today is the very first and very last time it'll ever be Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. So I want to make sure we make the absolute most of this incredible day. Fair enough? Let's make the absolute most of this absolutely incredible day. I am coming to you live from Charlottesville, Virginia, where I'm out here with the Carter Myers Automotive team. I get the pleasure and the honor of spending 3 days working with sales manager, general sales managers, people from the accounting office, controllers, parts, service, all the different leaders in all the different departments of over 15 stores around Virginia. I get the honor and the pleasure of spending some time with them today, tomorrow, and the next day, which is absolutely incredible. So I'm super excited to be here. As you can see, they're getting ready to set up breakfast and things like that behind me. It is freezing for some reason in this room, but we've got everything set up for a spectacular day and a spectacular show. So I'm super excited to spend this with you and to spend some time with these amazing superhumans. So Liza Myers-Borchers, for those of you that don't know, she is the owner of Carter Myers Automotive. She's the owner of the 15 stores. She's one of over 670 owners, I should say, because she is the owner of all of the dealerships. However, all of her employees, every single one of them, share in ownership in the company. It's one of the things that makes Carter Myers Automotive an incredibly special and unique bunch, is that everyone, literally everyone that's an employee of the company gets a share. It's like the Green Bay Packers, right? It's owned by the people, which makes it amazing. So I'm excited. I get to spend a couple days with them. As you see there on the right, Danelle Delgado is out here also. She's somewhere in this hotel, floating around, probably getting ready and prepared for her day as well. So it's exciting getting to spend some time with these amazing superhumans here in Charlottesville. So thankful. Liza's probably out running and watching right now. Hi, Liza. I'm so glad to be here. So that gives you an idea of where I am. Now we need to talk about where you are. You see, today we are going to be attacking habits and mindsets at Carter Myers Automotive. We're kind of doing the same thing right here on hashtag Rise and Grind this week. You see, our habits, our mindsets, our thought processes, the things that we do every single day, we ultimately become a slave to all of that. Where our brain believes we can go, where our brain believes we've come from, is all setting ourselves up for either success, failure, average, moderate, excellent. All of these things start with our habits and our mindset. So we're talking about that this week on hashtag Rise and Grind. Yesterday we dove in a little bit on becoming, or not becoming, but the fact that we are all slaves to our habits. You see, by design, we serve our habits. So what we have the opportunity to do is we can actually turn that into a positive thing, right? If we know this about ourselves, if we know that we are by design, physically designed to be a slave to our habits, the things that we do every day, the thoughts that we have every day, we are a slave to these things and have been our entire life. The question is, how can we turn those habits into something positive instead of something negative? You see, we as humans, we live like this. It's fairly simple. We have a thought. That thought becomes action. And then from that action, we get a reward or there's a consequence. Thought, action, reward, or consequence. Thought, action, reward, or consequence. And so years later, we're basically on autopilot. We know where to find the things that we've found. We know where to store for example, let's just use food, for example. We know where to find the food that we like. We know where to store the food that we like. We know how to enjoy eating the food that we like. And so we do it on autopilot. We do it on repeat. All of these habits over the last however many years of your life, you have become a slave to, whether they're positive or they're negative. So how do we change that? That's the question, right? Okay, great. We get it, Glenn. We know it. We understand. There was a thought, there was an action, there was either a reward or a consequence. If there was a reward, then we decided to continue doing that action again and again and again. And now here we are, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years later. How can we change this thing that we programmed that's now on autopilot over all these years? And that's a good question. I'm so glad you asked. So I think we should dive into that today here on hashtag Rise and Grind. Let's go. Everybody's like, we got to go. We got a morning routine. We got to get moving. Listen, in my line of work, I deal with a lot of this. I deal with a lot of mindsets. I deal with a lot of habits, patterns, behaviors that have been put in place. They've been cemented in place for a really long time. Like a really long time. I deal with this kind of stuff every single day. I deal with dealers and people in dealerships that are stuck in patterns. And that's why I'm really excited to do the things that I get to over the next couple of days with the Carter Myers Automotive team. But I'm also super excited about the 800% Club, where I'm going to be working with 20 dealers across the nation to really dive in and help them break out of these old habits, break out of these routines that we're a slave of that are limiting their ability to be successful. I get to help them break free. It's going to be incredible. And a lot of the dealers that are interested, or I've been talking to over the last couple of weeks about joining the group, they're like, how are we going to do that? And well, there's lots of different things that we're going to do to help them and to help you break free of these habits and these patterns that you've created, that you've become a slave to. Of course, there's factors like repetition. Repetition is incredibly important, right? We need to talk about it over and over and over and over and over. We got to train over and over and over and over and over. You guys understand the power of repetition. But then we also have things like goals setting and the proper way to set a goal to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And then most importantly, out of all of those things, we can set goals and we can have repetition. We can swing a golf club a million stinking times. But if we don't have someone to hold us accountable, if we don't have someone breathing down our necks just a little bit to make sure we're staying on point, to make sure we're actually practicing perfect practice, not just swinging the stick, if we don't have somebody there holding us accountable, it doesn't work. So using repetition, goal setting, accountability, and getting people uncomfortable is how we can break free of some of these chains, these patterns that we've been slaves to for however many years in our life. It's how we can break free. But there's also two major components that are necessary in order for you to stop being a slave to that habit that's either slowing you down, keeping you average, moderating your life. There are two main things that we're going to talk about this week that you can use, strategies that you can use to really attack those and affect change in your life. See, I am excited about October for you. I'm really excited about October for you because October, we talked about this yesterday. If you weren't here yesterday, we'll talk about it again today. I want you to choose one thing. I want you to choose one habit that you either need to break or something that you need to create. a habit that's going to take you to the next level, a habit that's keeping you from the next level. I want you to just take this one thing and we're going to attack it in October. We're going to attack it and you're going to come out on the other side a stronger person. So there's there's lots of things, accountability, responsibility, repetition, all of those things. But today and tomorrow, I want to talk about two key words. Two major words that you are going to need in order to be able to break free of being a slave to your habits. And these words are mindfulness and willingness. If you're taking notes, Mike Brockway, mindfulness and willingness. So today we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness. We'll talk more about willingness tomorrow. But first of all, I want you to understand the definition of mindfulness. So when you look at the definition of mindfulness, it says right here, which let me fix that so you can see it better. There you go. Mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. That's one definition. The second definition is a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. I'll read that one more time for those of you that are on a run or working out or maybe not in a place where you can take a note. Mindfulness, the second one is the one I really like. A mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. Listen, the key words here are being conscious and aware. You see, this is contrary to what's normal for us. Typically, what we do as human beings, what we do as slaves to our habits and patterns, routines that we've built up over however many years, typically what we do is we try to avoid, we try to run from, we try to not be aware of these negative areas of our life. We try to avoid them at all costs. So for us to be conscious or aware of the thing that we dislike, to be conscious of aware of the thing that we're scared of, to be conscious of or aware of the thing that's holding us back, to be conscious and aware of the truth that we don't want to face, for us to do that is contrary to what's normal for us. You see, it's a massive pattern interrupt when we start to be conscious and aware. Let me ask you a question, going back in time, if you've ever had a shot for any reason, any medical reason or whatever, if you've ever had a shot, especially when you were a kid, which one was worse? Was it worse to get a shot that you couldn't see? Or was it worse to get a shot that you could see? You see, when I was a kid, I had some major allergy issues. And so they told me that they were going to have to take this thing and prick. Basically, they were going to prick on my back and do a little pokes and prods to find out all the different things that I was allergic to. Well, being a kid, I could not stand the thought. They tried pinning me down. They tried to hold me down. And I screamed and I kicked and I screamed and I kicked, and I would not allow them to prick my back. I just simply wouldn't allow it, to the point where finally they turned me around. And they said, okay, if you won't let us prick your back, you're going to have to get 10 shots in each arm every day for 2 weeks. And I said, let's do it. And so we sat there. My poor mother, she brought me in every single day. And I sat there. And I would hold my arm at the top. And they would hold my arm at the bottom. And they would inject me with different things. And the little hives would pop up all over both of my arms because I was allergic to literally everything. I was allergic to so many different things. But ultimately, when I was able to see them coming, when I was able to face the needle, when I knew what was going to happen and I could see it, I had much more control over it. When I couldn't see it, and they were trying to pick my back, it was absolute panic. I was absolutely in sheer terror because I couldn't see. I wasn't able to face what was coming at me. You see, when we face a problem, a habit, a pattern, when we face it head on, now we can handle it. You see, now we can handle it. I heard a story recently. I heard a story of a young boy. And the young boy had panic attacks. He was having issues with panic attacks, real bad anxiety. It got to the point where he couldn't even go to school. His panic attacks would get so bad that he couldn't go to school at all. And so his mother took him into the doctor, the psychiatrist, to talk to him about these panic attacks and what was going on. And the first thing that the doctor did is the doctor took the boy and said, "Will you do me a favor? Will you spin around 5 times?" And so the boy, he was young, he was like 13 years old, and he sillily is that a word? Sillily? He would I'm not real sure, in a state of silliness, he spun around in the doctor's office, and he kept spinning around until the point where he got dizzy. And once he reached that point, the doctor said, how do you feel right now? Like, do you feel like, is your heart rate up? Do you feel like your blood's pumping a little bit faster? Do you feel kind of queasy in the pit of your stomach? Do you feel all of that? Are you aware of all of that? She brought attention to it, and the boy's like, yeah, my stomach feels kind of sick, and my head feels kind of crazy, and I'm dizzy, and so on and so forth. And he said all of these things with a smile on his face. And then the doctor said, "Are those the same things that you feel when you have a panic attack? Are those the same things that you feel when you're getting ready to go to school for the day? Are those the same things that you feel when you get into those social environments and it gets a little awkward?" And the boy said, yes. Those were the things that he felt. And typically those types of feelings would shut him down. Typically those types of feelings kept him locked in a room. Typically those types of feelings kept him from being able to move forward with his life. However, in this situation where it's fun and it's silly and we're spinning around and we're dizzy, the exact same sensations are seen as a positive reward versus a negative consequence. You see, in October, as we attack your one thing, that one thing that you need to change, or that one thing you want to get rid of, or that one thing that you want to create, either way, in October, as we attack that one thing, I want you to be mindful. That is step one, is I want you to be mindful. You see, if you smoke, I want you to be mindful when you're smoking. I'm not saying just stop smoking today. I'm not saying that. It might not work for you. It worked for others, but it might not work for you. What I'm saying is I want you to be mindful. I want you to be mindful of this sensation as you breathe the smoke in. I want you to be mindful of the taste and the disgust that comes along with it. I want you to be mindful of the smell and the aroma. I just want you to think about it. Because see, right now you've been on autopilot. I want you to be mindful. Watch what happens when you truly face it. If you're overweight, I want you to be mindful of what you're eating. I just want you to think about it. That's it. Just be mindful. I'm not telling you go on this diet. I'm not telling you have to go straight paleo. I'm not telling you can only eat this, eat that. I'm not telling you got to do ketotonic or any of that stuff. What I'm telling you is let's just be mindful. I want you to start thinking as you're eating. Think about that food choice. I want you to think about it. Think about how you feel afterwards. Think about your energy. Are you more tired? Are you less tired? Think about how that food, what result comes from that food, because you may have tricked yourself over time into believing that you're getting a positive reward when in reality you're getting a negative one. Mindfulness. If you're behind on your bills, or if you're in financial situations that are uncomfortable, right? You got the stack of bills. The bills are kind of piling up over in the corner. You haven't looked at them. Your bank account, you really don't want to look at that because you're not real. You're concerned about what that might look like, right? If you're in a financial situation where you're financially stretched, you're financially thin, I don't want you to avoid it anymore. I want you to be mindful of it. I want you to look at it. I want you to take it on head on. Say, okay, here's what's really going on. This is the real situation. Because see, our mind creates things in order to make you a slave to the habits. That's just how it works. So 95% of what's going on up here is just thought patterns that may or may not make sense. You've gone into autopilot. They were stored there from somewhere in your past. So I want you to be mindful. I'm challenging you to be mindful. Whatever that one thing is that you want to change, that one thing that you want to create, I want you to just be mindful of it every minute of the day. I want you to face it. I want you to embrace it. I want you to be in it. And over time, you're going to be able to gain control over it. Then, and only then, we can think to replace it. You see, the only way to really make or break a habit, or the only way to really break a habit is you have to replace it with a new one. Ultimately, we'll get there. We're not there yet, though. First, we want to break the habit. We want to unchain ourselves from this thing that you're chained to. I want to help you unchain yourself from this thing that is chaining you, that is slowing you down, that is keeping you from reaching your full potential. I want to help you get unchained from that. Once we get you unchained, we'll replace it. But see, right now, you are hardwired a certain way, my friend. You're hardwired in a certain way, and there's things, this mind of yours, it is working on you constantly. You know, they say we have 70,000 thoughts in a day. That's almost a new thought every second. 70,000 thoughts in a day. And they say that only 5% of those thoughts are unique. Only 5% of those thoughts are original. The other 95% have been programmed in here over the years. They're autopilot over the years. They control you. You don't control them. That's how we're designed. It's how we're built. I'm not saying you can change that, because you can't. However, we can take what we know about self. We can reprogram it to where now we can become a slave to good habits versus being a slave to bad habits. We no longer have to be a slave to anxiety. We don't have to be a slave to depression. We don't have to be a slave to panic. We don't have to be a slave to cigarettes. We don't have to be a slave to overeating. We don't have to be a slave to outbursts emotionally. We don't have to be a slave to any of these things. We can replace them by being mindful of them, by facing them right up front, being present and aware. This is how I feel. This is why I feel this way. This is what exists. And at that point, we can take control, start to reprogram, and move you forward to being the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because that's what I want for you. That's what the God of the universe wants for you. You see, I know something about you. I know that you are a child of God, uniquely made by the God of the universe. The God who made everything made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Not an average version, not a below average version, but the absolute best version that you can possibly be. And I know you're starting to make some good decisions. You're making good choices. You're watching hashtag Rise and Grind. You're up in the group. You're doing all these positive things. And I want you to know that these things, though seemingly minor, these little decisions, like your decision today to be mindful of the choices that you're making, to face them head on, that decision today might seem small, it might seem little, but ultimately it's making a massive impact. It's making an impact on your friends, on your family members, on your coworkers, and you've made a massive impact on me. And I, for one, absolutely love you for it. I do. I absolutely stinking love you. So do me a favor. Continue to go out there Have an amazing day today. If you need to watch more videos like this, you can go to glennlundy.com. If you need some Rise and Grind gear, you can go to glennlundy.com. But most importantly, will you do me a favor? Will you come back here tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m.? We're going to do this all over again on hashtag Rise and Grind.